I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. Yeah. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s. Well, you know, I made incredible. I made the hooks. I made the melodies. Yeah. I made the shit, dog. I'm the man. It's enough to get my room so I could ram this shit up, ram it up his ass. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab me. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face.
Max B and Jim Jones once moved like real blood brothers, locked in tighter than Harlem streets at midnight. But the second Jim turned his back, that bond cracked. From that moment on, Max B flipped from being his right-hand hitmaker to the kind of nightmare that don't fade with time. The air got cold, and loyalty turned into tension sharp enough to cut through fame itself.
So Jim Jones, compare the names. Look, Max Bigavel, Jim Jones. That don't even add up. That's not on my level, man.
From allegedly taking Jim's girl to wrecking his whip, to causing chaos in the streets just to get a reaction, Max wasn't holding back for nobody. Born Charlie Wingate in Harlem, New York, he came straight out of the Abraham Lincoln Projects, where every corner taught you something about pain and power. That place wasn't just home, it was survival training. His story started with struggle, a mom caught up in addiction and time behind bars. It was his grandmother who held him down and raised him with love and grit. She did her best to steer him right, but the streets don't stop calling just because someone cares. Before the East Coast ever felt his wavy sound, young Charlie was finding peace in the Harlem Boys Choir, learning rhythm, tone, and patience. That's where that smooth, melodic voice was born. The same sound that later made Max B unforgettable. But music couldn't drown the noise of the streets. By 18, he was already knee-deep in the wrong lane, chasing fast money and faster mistakes. In 1997, he got caught up in a robbery that sent him away for about 8 long years. But prison didn't break him, it reshaped him. When he stepped out in 2005, he wasn't the same. His walk was colder, his voice carried more weight, and his confidence hit different. That's when Max Bigavelli was born, a name stitched from legends. Biggie, Machiavelli, and Jigga. To him, he was the perfect blend of all three. The flow, the pain, the vision, and the hustle all rolled into one force Harlem couldn't ignore.
Your name is Max B, aka Max Bigavel. We know Bigavel stands for Big Jig and Pac, right? But where did the
Big
name...
Jig and Machiavelli, baby.
Yeah.
Big Jig and Machiavelli.
But when Max touched down, Harlem was already lit up like a fuse ready to blow. The diplomats had the whole city in a chokehold. Cameron and Jim Jones moving through the blocks like kings wearing invisible crowns. Through Cam, Max got introduced to Jim, and before long he was signed under Jim's Bird Gang label, locking in with Harlem legend Dame Grease behind the boards. The chemistry between Max and Grease was instant, raw, unpredictable, and electric. In 2006, Max dropped $1 Million Baby, and the streets lost their minds. His voice, that signature wave, the charisma, it all hit different. With stack bundles in the mix too, Jim Jones was sitting on gold without even realizing it. Max was the secret weapon, laying down hooks and verses that turned average tracks into anthems. Songs like Baby Girl became Harlem classics overnight, and anything Max touched turned to pure flame. But no matter how high the wave got, the streets never stopped pulling at him. By September 2006, things flipped hard. Word reached Max through his ex, Gina Conway, about a flashy dude named Alan J. Plowden, a big talker knee-deep in mortgage and mail fraud, throwing money around like it grew on trees. Gina filled Max in on all the details, and that mix of jealousy, pride, and hunger started to boil. She claimed Max hinted they could run a play, hit a lick, cash out heavy, and make sure everyone ate. That's when the line between music and the street started to blur for real. What happened next is still argued to this day, but one thing's certain, it ended bad. Max wasn't even on the scene when it all went down. But prosecutors made sure to paint him as the mastermind pulling strings from the shadows. Gina, who at the time was hustling, dancing, and juggling too many lives at once, testified that Max sent her and his stepbrother, Kelvin Aldo Sims, to hit Plowden at a Holiday Inn in New Jersey. The plan was supposed to be smooth. Wait till he left to party, sneak in, grab the cash, and vanish. But nothing ever stays clean in the streets. Gina and Sims reportedly got lost for hours, missing exits, arguing, wasting time until they finally pulled up. By then, Plowden was already back asleep next to another woman. Out of nowhere, a man named David Taylor walked into that room. He wasn't even part of the setup. Panic hit hard. Sims reacted without thinking and pulled the trigger, ending Taylor's life on the spot. In one heartbeat, that quick come-up turned into a full-blown murder case. And Harlem's Wave King got dragged straight into the undertow.
Boyfriend Charlie Wingate, aka Max B, a rapper, about the men's money. Then Wingate reaches out to this man, Calvin Leardom.
Was the first to break when the cops came knocking. Fear hit her harder than the cuffs ever could. She spilled everything to save herself, handing over a 169-page statement that laid it all on Max. She told investigators he was the one who set the play in motion, claiming he promised her loyalty, money, and forever if she rode with him. But when the feds moved in, they didn't come soft. They came with full force. Max got slammed with felony murder and conspiracy charges, and the judge dropped a $2 million bail tag on him like a brick. Inside that cold jail cell, time froze. Every tick of the clock felt heavier, but outside, the world kept spinning. Jim Jones, the same man who called Max his brother, was out there living the dream. He dropped We Fly High, Ballin', and the whole world caught the wave. The track was everywhere. Radios, clubs, cars, all echoing a sound that Max swore came from him. Max claimed he wrote it, said his pen built the very hits Jim was getting rich off. While Jim was doing interviews and stacking fame, Max was stuck behind bars fighting for his life, his name, and his legacy. 10 long months later, his bail finally dropped to $90,000, and that's when Jim came back into the picture. But not how family's supposed to. Instead of helping his brother out of loyalty, reports say Jim used it like a power move. He allegedly agreed to post the bail only if Max signed over his publishing and locked himself into a 6-album deal under his control. Trapped, broke, and desperate, Max signed, and that signature changed everything. Jim walked away owning the wave, and Max walked out of jail in July 2007. He was free, but it didn't feel like freedom. He came home harder, colder, carrying a new kind of anger. The kind born from betrayal. The streets felt different now. Max was broke, bound by a deal that sold off his future, while the same man he once called brother kept rising higher. That silence between them said it all.
It all began the morning of September 22nd at the Fort Lee Holiday Inn. Police are called there after a man is shot to death. The victim, David Taylor from Florida, was staying in room 227.
Mixtapes and street DVDs kept replaying Jim's name like he was a legend. But as fans started chanting "Wavy," the truth hit hard. Max wasn't getting his due. If Jim Jones wouldn't give him shine, Max was done playing quiet. This wasn't jealousy, it was justice. He had every reason to feel robbed. This wasn't just getting shut out. It was straight-up financial robbery. Jim owned Max's publishing, every hook, ad-lib, and melody, cashing in while Max watched from the sidelines. The friendship was shattered, loyalty gone, and Max started plotting his next move. He left Bird Gang with one plan. If Jim wouldn't pay him, he'd expose him, publicly. That's when Max linked up with French Montana, who was still on the come-up, long before the fame. French was a raw Bronx hustler known for his Cocaine City DVDs, gritty street tapes showing life unfiltered. He already had tension with Jim after rumors that Jones was talking down on him after a shooting. So when Max and French connected, it wasn't just music, it was war. Their alliance became K-Wave, a brotherhood fueled by revenge and ambition. It turned into one of the most electric street movements in mixtape history. Max knew the industry wouldn't save him. He didn't own his music, had no label backing, but his voice still echoed through every block. So he did what hustlers do. He went underground. Max started flooding the streets with free music, letting the people hear what labels buried. But these weren't just tracks. They were open fire. No filter, no fear. The first shot came with Public Domain 3. The cover said it all. Max standing in a graveyard beside tombstones marked Millie Jim Jones and Vanilli Jules Santana. It was a direct hit, calling them fake and riding off his sound. Max made it clear he was the wave, and they were just surfing on it. He didn't just clown Jim, he torched him. He dropped joints like Lipsy and I Know, spitting sharp lines. I was giving them loops, but them dudes blew it. Each verse hit with confidence and venom. But Max didn't stop there. He went after reputations, personal lives, everything. The wildest shot came when he dropped She Touched It in Miami, a ruthless diss that made shocking claims about Jim's longtime girlfriend, Chrissy Lampkin. Max laughed through the bars, painting Jim as a man played by his own circle, and the streets loved every second of it.
Got him in his drive already. I don't owe nothing. He got all his songs already. How you think he got so hot? Came out with all them tapes. I did that. I put them hooks together. I made incredible music. All he did was rhyme 16s. Well, you know, I made the credit. I made the hooks. I made the melodies.
Yeah.
I made the shit, dog. I'm the man.
It was messy, scandalous, and unforgettable. Jim Jones never saw it coming. He tried to deny everything, brushing Max off as a washed-up artist who never made it. He even claimed Max didn't write We Fly High, his biggest hit ever. But fans weren't buying it. Max's vocals were all over the early reference tracks. Soon, people started questioning Jim's real place in Dipset's legacy. Max wasn't just talking. He was acting like he wanted real smoke. He claimed Jim once tried to trap him in a parking lot, blocking his car. Max said he saw it coming, rammed Jim's Bentley out the way, and even threw a few punches before speeding off. This wasn't lyrical beef anymore. It was personal. And Max? He embraced the chaos. He even showed off the dents in his car like badges of honor. French Montana and others backed up his story, and the legend only grew. Then came November 2008, when Max and French pulled up deep in Manhattan to confront Jim face to face. They stormed the building where Jim was recording, making it clear the streets weren't safe for him anymore. Max later claimed Jim panicked and called the cops, a move that shattered his street image. Not long after, both camps clashed again at a Brooklyn club. Chairs flew, people ran, and police swarmed in with canines. It looked like a movie scene, but it was all real, and the tension was off the charts. By the time it all cooled down, Max had done more than diss Jim. He humiliated him. Max B became a street legend, a cult figure who didn't need labels or approval. He stayed unstoppable, flooding the streets with raw sound that still echoes today. But while his war with Jim dominated the mixtape scene, something heavier loomed ahead, his biggest battle yet. Max was now facing a criminal trial that could bury his whole wave. On June 9, 2009, he walked into Bergen County Courthouse calm and confident, that same smooth swagger intact. Cameras flashed, fans showed up, and his lawyers talked like victory was certain. They claimed to have shredded the prosecution's key witness, Gina Conway, the woman at the center of it all. Gina had flipped, cutting a deal to testify against Max and his stepbrother, Kelvin Aldo Sims, for a lighter sentence. Max's defense called her bitter, a scorned ex twisting the story to save herself. But deep down, everyone knew. This trial was about more than guilt or innocence. It was about whether the wave could survive the storm.
Banged it just enough to get my room so I could ram it up, ram it up in. Right? My window was there. He tried to grab it. So when he came in the window, I punched him in the face.
Courtrooms don't run on street logic. Swagger can't save you in front of a jury. When the verdict dropped, everything Max believed in, loyalty, code, redemption, shattered in seconds. He was found guilty on 9 of 11 counts: armed robbery, conspiracy, aggravated assault, and felony murder. Prosecutors called him the puppet master, claiming he planned it all and waited to cash out once the job was done. He wasn't even there when the shots went off, but they said the whole idea was his. The case leaned heavy on Gina Conway's word. She'd cut a deal. Murder dropped to manslaughter and armed robbery in exchange for testifying. Her sentence went from life to a recommended 18 years. Max's defense fought hard, saying Gina flipped the script to save herself. Then came the twist. Gina admitted in court that Max didn't even know about the robbery, saying she'd used his name to convince her boyfriend Kelvin to join in. The defense said she only turned on Max later out of heartbreak, using him as her ticket to freedom. But the jury didn't buy it. They were locked into the prosecution's story. On September 3, 2009, Max B got 75 years, parole eligible in 2042. Just like that, Harlem's Wave King became inmate number gone. The streets were stunned, fans crushed, and in the background, Jim Jones looked like he'd made his final move. With Max behind bars, Jim still controlled his publishing. Every hook, melody, and wavy ad-lib still paid him. The same sound Max created was now feeding the man he once called brother. And to make it worse, Jim started mocking him in interviews, throwing slick shots, calling him goofy, and downplaying his legacy like it never mattered. Every time Jim spoke, he acted like Max was washed up, an old product collecting dust while he moved on. But what Jim didn't realize was that the wave couldn't drown that easy. Even behind bars, Max B refused to fade. The streets still loved him. His name still carried weight. He stayed connected through letters, calls, and the loyalty of fans, keeping his spirit alive long after the system tried to bury it.
Right around that time, Max B gets found guilty on 9 of 11 counts, including felony murder. And he gets sentenced to, was it 75 years?
Yeah, 75.
Came May 2010, the day the power shifted for good. A judge ruled Jim Jones no longer had control over Max B's career. The court found Max had fulfilled both contracts from 2005 and 2007, cutting the final string that tied him down. He was still behind bars, but artistically, he was finally free. Soon after, he dropped his long-awaited album Vigilante Season in 2011, proving the wave was still alive and heavy. The streets spoke loud. Max's smooth, melodic gangster sound had become the secret blueprint for a new era. You could hear his fingerprints everywhere, in flows, harmonies, even in the language of waves and vibes. His sound quietly reshaped the whole culture. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. In 2016, after 7 years inside, Max's new legal team dropped a bomb. His original lawyer had failed him, allegedly chasing profit instead of justice. That motion for post-conviction relief worked. The judge vacated Max's 75-year sentence, shocking everyone. He later took a plea for aggravated manslaughter, cutting 55 years off and reducing his time to around 12. With years already served, freedom was finally on the horizon. Max's official release date was set for November 9, 2025, the day Harlem's Wave King would walk free again. By then, he wasn't just a rapper, he was a legend. His influence rippled from underground tapes to Kanye West's star-packed albums. Kanye even tried naming his 2016 project Waves until fans reminded him who started it. He later featured Max's voice in tribute. And artists like Drake and Wiz Khalifa all called Max an inspiration. His sound, his swagger, his energy. Even Jim Jones had to admit it once. Max could have been bigger than Drake if prison hadn't stopped him. That's how deep the wave runs. Even his rivals couldn't deny it. Now with 2025 here, one question still hangs. Are Max and Jim still enemies, or is it over at last? From prison, Max speaks like a new man. Calm, grounded, focused on family. He's a husband, a father of 4, saying the anger's gone, replaced with peace and perspective. He's ready to move on. Jim, though, still guarded. By 2023, he'd made peace with French Montana and dropped new music. But when it came to Max, he called it complicated. No hate, no handshake, just distance. The story of Max B, the man who turned pain into waves, still ain't finished. So drop your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to Drip Sign, because the wave's coming home.